What's up, people? Welcome to episode 41 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. We have the full complement of Knittle brothers back with us this week. Matthew has returned from his exile. Matt, what's up?
Hey, hi. How is everybody? How are you guys?
Oh, we're just swell. You're bundled up, so it looks like you're nice and cozy warm. Christian, how are you doing?
I'm doing just dandy, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Got my American Outlaws scarf here because the U.S. Really struggled these last couple games, and we'll get into that when we start talking about our topics for this week when we get to the actual podcast. But yeah, so that's what I got going on. Christian, are you still searching for the trivia question?
I sure am, Dave.
Okay.
Out with Bruce.
Yeah.
I got one that's lame, but this is what I got.
Okay. Well, sounds about right. Okay. Are we ready to record for the podcast portion? I'm going to need a yes confirmation, like you're in the exit seat on an airplane.
Yeah.
Christian?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys. That's just well. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 41 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. I am Dave Knittle here with my brothers Matthew and Christian, as always, to discuss stories from around the soccer world. Christian, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dave. This is the second time you've asked me today. I'm so glad that you've asked me so many times. It hasn't changed in the last couple of minutes, but how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just so we're clear, the reason I ask you for a second time is because for the podcast listeners, this is the first time they're hearing how you're doing. So
they should have been listening to the YouTube channel.
Okay. All right. So for podcast listeners, you should also check out our YouTube channel where we record these, and they're all up there. Anyways, I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I have returned from my two different trips on the East Coast last week, and that was awesome seeing everyone. And just got back from Seattle. Kristen and I were up there, had a fantastic time up there. Matt, how are you doing?
Doing all right, Dave. I'm starting to get that constant college sickness where, you're just you feel it in your throat every day. And I'm not looking forward to that feeling again.
Yep, I can definitely relate to that. Just a constant feeling of just not quite right. So you look like you're bundled up. You're ready to deal with any sickness, though. So you look nice and warm.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I like your scarf.
Oh, thank you. All right, cool. All right, so with that, pleasantries have been exchanged. Christian, do you have our trivia question for this week?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't have anything very, very interesting this week, so I was not prepared, and I have a very lame trivia question for this week.
Okay,
so
sounds right.
Okay. Who has Manchester United drawn the most in the Champions League over the last, 15 years? Yeah, 15 years.
Okay. So we'll think on that question, and we will give our answers. Listeners, you think on it as well, and we'll all give our guesses at the end, and it'll just be...
I know you sent that screenshot to me. Don't look at it again.
Okay. All right. So may just be me guessing, but we'll see. Let's get into our topics. Before we do that, let me just quick tell you about Fan Futsal. I'm not doing any more ad reads or whatever, but Fan Futsal is a fantasy soccer application website. I am the founder CEO of. It's a simplified way to play fantasy soccer. You pick clubs, 5 clubs instead of 8 to 11 individual players for your teams. Only need to follow match scores. We have we make it really easy for you to play fantasy soccer. If you're new to playing fantasy soccer, if you've played fantasy soccer before, haven't liked it, definitely check out Fan Futsal. It's something cool, interesting, kind of gateway into fantasy soccer fandom. We have leagues from North American and European, the major European leagues. So check that out at FanFutsal, FANFUTSAL.com today. Christian is supporting the shirt right now. Very good. And with that, let's get to our topics. So the first one we wanted to talk about after the transfer window, players getting transferred in, getting new numbers. And one that kind of jumped out and was like an interesting case was Renato Sanchez, who transferred from Bayern Munich to Swansea. And he tried to get number 85 on Swansea, and the English Premier League rejected it. they said he couldn't wear 85, and so he ended up choosing number 35. Christian, do you have any problem with either Renato Sanchez trying to choose 85 and or the English Premier League rejecting it?
I really don't understand why the Premier League care what number that you wear. It seems ridiculous. And 85, is there any significance to that in England that teams would just say, hey, no, you can't have that?
No, the significance is more on Sanchez wanted to wear it because that was his original number when he came up at Porto, Lisbon? I forget what. Yeah. Benfica, excuse me, Benfica. I was over 2.
Yeah, but regardless, he's very entitled to having that number, and I don't understand why the Premier League, it's not even that Swansea's saying anything. It's that the Premier League, the entity of England, is telling him he cannot wear that. What on earth? Why do they care?
Yeah, the entity of England. Matt, what about you? Any issues on either side of this?
Yeah, so like at first I wasn't sure if it was serious. I kind of like jokingly sent you a tweet about it. I think it was like kind of funny. I saw it wasn't the Swansea account. It was one of like a parody, some sort of account. I sent it to Dave. It was like, oh, Renato Sanchez is choosing number 85. It's like, oh, that's kind of weird. I wasn't sure if that was real or not. And then I saw later that it was rejected, and they gave him 35. And I just like assumed the first one was a complete lie. Like the first tweet was just like a joke for like just a bad joke, just to say he was going to be number 85. And then it turns out like this was kind of a real thing.
Yeah.
So
no.
it just baffled me that was real.
Yeah, I know. And so, like I said, the significance was that was the number he first tried to wear. And the Premier League ultimately announced that they encourage or require players to choose numbers consecutively. And so they thought that 85 was too high. And so as ridiculous that is, that was the logic behind it. And I think we're all in agreement there that it's stupid. Another thing, so another player on Swansea, Wilfred Boney, chose number 2. He's a center forward. And a lot of people in England are up in arms about a center forward wearing the number 2. Christian, any issues for you on his number choice?
I like that his number choice is 2 because it's his second coming. Why not wear your jersey and really show everybody, yo, this is my second time here. I'm here to stay. I'm going to bang the goals in for you this time.
There you go. All right. I like that. So you're go with it. Matt, what about you? Number 2 for center striker.
Yeah, I don't really care about what number you wear. It's not something that makes a big deal to me. And, you know, Boney, having played for Man City a couple of years ago, then he was loaned at Stoke last year. He hasn't really been showing out too much, so you know, let the guy wear whatever number he wants.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, for us, it's not as important. I think in England, because where the numbers originated in soccer, 100 years ago, they had a significance into what position the players play. Not numbers in general.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think they made numbers.
No, the numbers as they related to players on the soccer field, and so they originated in England, and so they may hold a higher cultural significance, but it's the 21st century. Like, players are wearing all kinds of crazy things, doing all kinds of crazy things with their hairstyles. So I think they should be able to wear whatever number they want.
Yeah, why not just whip out the 5-digit numbers soon? Why not? Honestly,
Mexico does. Remember, so on previous podcasts, I was obsessed with Mexico having 3-digit numbers, which is insane. But that's because everybody within the club in Mexico has to have a unique number. So from the U9s all the way through the first team, everybody only has one number. And so if you get promoted from like the U17 team to the first team, you keep your number for that year, which is pretty crazy.
That is cool.
Yeah. So I kind of like that. England should get on something like that.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, anything else you care to say about numbers or anything like that?
Nah, nothing more on numbers.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
Yeah, I think he's sure. All right, now let's get on to Qatar. Qatar was recently eliminated from World Cup qualifying in the Asian Confederation, and so that means that they will debut at the World Cup for the first time when they host it in 22. 2022. That'll be the first time since 1934 when Italy hosted and debuted that a host nation will be debuting at a World Cup. Matt, any sort of issues for you with this, or is it just kind of reality of the situation? Like, do you have any problems with that?
No, I think when they were chosen, this was kind of a known thing that this was going to happen. They would debut or be possibly a second time World Cup. So I don't think this is too big of a deal. Like the whole Qatar issue in itself, like choosing the location, that's a whole nother thing. But when they were picked, I assume this is what they expected to happen.
So, but are they wrongfully taking the place of a country that could have and should have qualified? If they haven't qualified before, is there any issue there for you?
Well, the stadium proposals, it looks like it's going to be a nice tournament. Besides, the timing and the weather and getting that whole thing
and
figured
slave
out.
labor,
Yeah. Once you get over all that stuff, it's going to be a great tournament. But the other two countries that hosted, the last two countries that debuted and hosted won, so you never know.
Very true, very true. So Qatar favorites to win the 2022 World Cup. Christian, what about you? Any issues for you here with Qatar debuting?
I don't have an issue with the debut. Yes, I have an issue with them being chosen as the host nation. That's a whole different topic. I'm not going to go into it right now. We could talk about it in 6 years when we're going to talk about it again. 5 years, whenever it is. But I think that's something. 5 years, yes, I know, math. Woo! So what I'm thinking that we need to do is maybe choosing the host nation shouldn't guarantee a spot. And yeah, that might harm a lot. It might harm the players, or not the players, the fans in that country from going to some games. But I really don't think it's going to hamper it too much. That is the biggest event in the sport, and people are going to show up regardless. People are going to travel for it regardless. And I think you should have to earn your spot.
Yeah, but that you're asking countries, especially nowadays, to commit billions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, to a tournament and build the infrastructure. FIFA then comes in, and during the World Cup, FIFA says they can't be taxed on any of the profits that are made from that too. So FIFA is, they don't collect any taxes or whatnot. FIFA just gets 100% of the profits and things like that because they're in Switzerland, and that's a deal that they work out with the government. So all of those financial considerations and concessions that these countries are making, I think it would be a step too far to say you can't qualify automatically for the World Cup.
But they're getting all that profit, and they're really benefiting from having all these stadiums built, from having all these people travel into it. And so, yeah, they might not be benefiting in the sport if they don't have their team playing, but they're benefiting as a country. A lot of these.
I don't know about benefiting. So, I mean, like I said, they're investing billions of dollars and then getting revenue from travel and tourist things, but revenue that's specific to FIFA, they don't get. It's not taxed, and the government doesn't get that. And that's what I'm getting at. So it's very much, Matt can get in this since he's an econ major, but World Cups and sporting tournaments and stadiums a lot of times don't end up having the economic benefits that are promised. So again, I think that would be a step too far to say these countries have to qualify. Okay, all right. You don't agree, Matt? Care to explain the economic concepts of stadium deals?
Oh, I could go all night about this, but I think we should just move on.
All right, sounds like a plan. Okay, let's talk about keeping with the financial kind of theme, and the transfer window just closing, and a couple of clubs, historical, selling clubs, Monaco and Dortmund, had some huge sales. Monaco's were deferred. They had some big sales earlier on in the window, and then the big one, Mbappe, they'll get the transfer next year. But Dortmund sold Ousmane Dembele for over 100 million euros. At what point, in your guys' opinion, can these clubs change from selling clubs? The fees are incredibly exorbitant at this point. Is there any point in time where they hit an inflection point and they stop going from selling clubs to, legit holding on to players and competing and buying? Christian, what do you think of that?
Yes, but they're going to have to change their philosophy entirely, and they're going to have to do what a lot of players aren't going to like, and it's what Liverpool did this year. They don't give you a release clause, and they don't have to let you leave. And I think teams are entitled to do that. It's really how you're going to remain competitive and how you're going to deter the big boys from coming in and stealing your top players. That's the only way you can stay competitive.
Okay. Matt, what about you? What do you think of these clubs? Are they always going to be selling? Is their financial model always set up to just buy players young, sell them before they hit their peak?
Well, it's tough with Monaco because just recently they went through a buying phase where they did kind of load up on some big names, and that's how I feel like they got a good establishment of like a culture they wanted to build, and then after that they invested in youth. But well, not after, but you didn't see the benefits until after.
Kind of.
So I think Monaco is going to be a team that is going to sustain at the top, or not be Real Madrid, Barcelona, because they're their own animal. But I think they could be as sustainable as the big clubs in England, maybe a little bit behind PSG, because with all the money that's getting pumped into them, they're being absurd. But like a Juventus even, I think those teams are all really good and have been around for many years. So I think they can do that.
Okay. So you think it can happen? Okay. Yeah. So for me, I think it's possible, but I just don't know. I don't know what it's going to take, because like 100 million fees for single players, in my mind, that should be the point. At this point, they should be transitioning from their kind of previous sort of models into more of a sustainable at the top kind of model. And I don't know. It's tough to say one way or another, because Monaco won the league last year with their old model. And, is it wrong to think that they could do that again? I mean, yeah. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And Dortmund, has had a rough couple of years after Klopp left, where they haven't really been as competitive with Bayern. And I just want to see more competition. And so, is it going to take, a lot of things that are being thrown around now? Is it going to take salary caps in leagues and things like that? I know financial fair play was trying to get at that, but really, it all comes back to, I want to see more competitive games in a lot of these countries. And so what do you think will help to enhance that, Christian?
I think financial fair play needs to be more straightforward. I think right now it's really up in the air of what it kind of means, and teams are able to get around it very easily, it seems. Yes, PSG are under investigation right now from UEFA, and we'll see what comes out of that. But I think it should be, you made this much money, you have this much money to spend, and that's the end of that. It should be laid out very, very basically.
Yeah, and that's what it's supposed to be, but there's all kinds of ways to circumvent it. It's not as simple as you made this money, especially when you get Qatar and other countries and organizations involved where they can overpay for sponsorship that's not exactly market rate. And so PSG theoretically has a $200 million a year deal with like Qatar Airways, but is that really even market value? So, I agree. They need to find some way to simplify it, and maybe it's not tied to revenues, and maybe it is just a straight salary cap for the league, and you can spend less, but you can't spend more.
I think it's going to get more difficult, because it seems the way that the market is going right now, only the big teams are going to get the best players, because that's really where the money is. Yeah, it's getting a little bit more spread out in England, but I don't really think it is everywhere. And a lot of these teams are going to struggle to keep up with PSG in Liga, with Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga, and it's just going to continually get out of hand, in my opinion.
Matt, what do you think? What do you think is going to help competitive nature of the leagues?
So it seems like even if the top teams have the money, they're buying the players from the smaller clubs. So it's like a little trickle down economics. Hey, college. All right, yeah, but yeah, so there is going to be more money flowing, and the smaller teams can put a absurd price tag on a player, and then build that player with a lot more decent players, making their team better, maybe more around than having the star player before. But I think eventually they're also building up, their team and their culture.
Well, that's the thought, but that hasn't happened. So like the thought is that exact thing. So since the 90s, when the new kind of transfer system came into play, the thought was the big clubs would pay, not overpay, but pay market value for players, spend all this money, it goes down to the clubs, and then the clubs can then reinvest in infrastructure, in youth, build better players, and then theoretically a rising tide lifts all boats. Metaphor. But that's still not happening. Is it an analogy? I don't know. I don't know the difference. One uses like.
No, that is that an Alabama slang.
Oh, yeah. So, but that hasn't happened, and so is it? So, what my thought is, more of the same isn't going to change. So, something needs to change, and I don't know if it's just the fees becoming so exorbitant,
Yeah,
that they don't, or that they hit that inflection point and now clubs can compete, or is this something like salary cap or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt they're ever going to go to a salary cap. I can't imagine that's going to happen.
The Bayern and DFB, the German league and federation is challenging UEFA to implement something like that. So I don't know. It's definitely being discussed.
Well, people are not happy with the way PSG went about things, and Barca and Madrid are kind of leading that front, which is shocking with the two of them, considering how much money they have and how they've done it over the years.
Yeah, they've always done things by the book and been good guys. So
perfect.
Yeah. All right. So that'll bring us to the end of our first segment here. We don't have a second segment, fan futsal segment, because it was the international break. So we're going to go to some music. When we come back, it'll just be our last segment. Stick with us.
So we still have a second segment, but it's just
we're skipping it.
So
we're going right to the third segment.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't be ridiculous, Christian. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Welcome back, listeners, to our second and final segment. And let's get right into our topics here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was yesterday, 555one.com. That was the first place I saw reported it. The NASL was officially sanctioned as a Division III league next year. So they are dropping down from a D2 league in the U.S. down to a D3 league. Matt, any concern or implications associated with this decision? Is that spell the end of the NASL for you? What do you think about the ramifications associated with that?
So, quick question: what's the team that is Division 2, or what's the league that's Division 2 now? Is there none? USL.
Yep. So right now, NASL and USL are Division 2. USSF said you guys got to get things figured out, and NASL apparently did not.
But didn't they move the NASL down to an already existing Division 3? Like there's another league in there, right?
No. U.S. Soccer, we've talked about this on previous podcasts, but for listeners out there that may be a little bit confused, and rightfully so, U.S. Soccer has arbitrary sort of requirements for being designated Division 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's not like a typical pyramid that you see overseas. So Division 1 is MLS. There's, I think your owner has to have a net worth of more than $20 million. You need to have 75% of the league and over 1 million person metropolitan areas. There's all different kinds of requirements. And then as you go down the sanctioning division levels, the requirements become less stringent and so on. So right now, MLS is Division 1. Currently this year, 2017, NASL and USL are operating at a D2 level. There's no Division 3 right now. And then Division 4 is NPSL and PDL. So that's just a lot of acronyms, but for anyone out there, that's just, painting the US pyramid for you. So Matt, continue your thought.
All right. Yeah. So it's probably going to hurt that NASL a lot. It seems as though the lower leagues have already had trouble staying financially feasible. So I think this is only going to hurt it that way. Players are going to want to stay in Division 2. It's closer for them to make it to the MLS. So I think players are going to leave. So yeah, it doesn't look good for the NASL.
Okay, Christian, what about you? Thoughts here?
All right, kids, plug your ears. Honestly, who the fuck cares whether they're second or third division? In America, it doesn't matter. After you're outside the first division, nobody cares anymore. People really aren't paying attention. I couldn't name you a single team that's in the NASL right now. I really could not. And
Cosmos.
The Cosmos are in it? Okay, I know who
You
they are.
could, yeah, you could name them.
Are the Rowdies in that, or are they USL?
They moved to the USL.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think that is really going to have an impact on them as a league. To be completely honest, is there going to be relegation between the two, or is it still just going to stay in third?
No, so they're two independent leagues. Funny you should bring that up. So no, they're going to stay independent. I can explain something else that's going on, but continue your thought.
Okay, I just think that it's not going to have that big of an impact on either of the leagues, and they're just kind of going to both be feeders. And now the NASL is just going to feed into the USL instead of maybe feeding some of the players. I don't think
they're not going to feed though because they're independent, right?
But they're not. I'm not saying it's directly going to go, but the MLS are going to look at the NASL, where they probably were right now, and like, okay, maybe there is somebody there. They probably don't look that much, but I'm saying when they were in the second division, maybe you look a little bit more. I think the USL is now going to look at the NASL instead of MLS, and they're going to it's going to be a little bit more of a deterrent. But at the end of the day, fan-wise and club-wise, I don't think it's that big of a difference.
Okay. The big thing for me and what I was talking about before when you brought up relegation and whatnot, Peter Wilt is launching a Division III league next year. I forget what it's called, NIRSL. I can't remember. We've talked about it on a previous podcast, but his whole philosophy behind launching it was going to be a D3 league that was going to include promotion and relegation, and they would affiliate themselves with the NPSL and NASL. Now, with this new league being launched as a Division III and NASL dropping down to Division III, it just creates an even bigger cluster of confusion in the American game. And I don't know, I'm really worried about the future of the NASL. I think it's really important to have the NASL because it is completely independent, whereas the USL has formal affiliations with MLS, and they have MLS 2 teams and reserve teams in that league. I like that the NASL is completely independent, and so I think that this is only a bad thing from my perspective. Any other thoughts, Matt?
No, you guys covered it.
Okay, Christian, what about you? Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that you pretty much nailed it. That it is negative, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that big of an impact. It is a negative. They're not going to be happy about dropping into the third division, but I don't think it's going to on soccer in the U.S.
I think it does. You're losing metropolitan areas that had professional soccer before and are not going to have them anymore. And whether they move to other leagues or whatnot, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So let's close with some talk about World Cup qualifiers, and specifically the U.S. And specifically, the first one I wanted to talk about was during the Costa Rica game that took place in Harrison, New Jersey. ESPN devoted a camera solely to Christian Pulisic that you could watch online. They had a Christian Pulisic ISO camera for an 18-year-old making his, 15th cap or something like this. Are they hyping him too much? Is this too much attention for him? Because he did not have two good games in either of the World Cup qualifiers. Christian, what do you think about the ISO cam?
Far too much pressure on him right now. And yeah, he really did not impress me at all in the last two games. I didn't see much of the Costa Rica game. I'm glad I didn't, because from what I've heard, it was a nightmare. But from the Honduras game, I watched that one, and he gave the ball away a lot. And it looked like the field was very, very poor. You could just see the way the ball moved when people were dribbling, or when they passed it, it barely was moving. But at the same time, you got to play through the conditions. And a player of his level, with the expectations he has, he kind of has to rise up a little bit more and be that focal point. Yeah,
but
he's 18
that's
years
unfair.
old.
He's 18. Yeah.
He's 18. Yeah, I understand that. But what he's been doing in Germany has brought that expectations on himself, and now he has to live up to that.
Yeah, but I don't think he needs any more pressure by having this ISO cam on him. So I agree with what you're saying.
Ridiculous. I don't think he needs that. That's
Okay.
only going to
Matt,
hurt.
Matt, what about you with the ISO cam? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I think the ISO cam, I was fine with it because, he's something to watch. And for a lot of American soccer fans, they have nothing to watch. Like, they have no star to go to. most people, like your average basketball fan, will watch because LeBron James is on TV, or football, you're gonna watch Tom Brady play. So I think it's American soccer's been lacking that like true star, and like the fact that Pulisic is doing this well and actually has a chance to be the like world class player that he has the potential to be. I feel like that's exciting American fans, and that's why they want to watch it. So I'm fine with it.
I agree that he is exciting and everything like that. I just think that adding on that additional pressure of having an ISO cam on him at this stage is just too much. You know, maybe after the World Cup and after, you know, he gets more established and whatever. Like I said, I mean, he's had less than 20 caps, I believe. And to do this on him, I think it's just too early.
Well, I mean, like LeBron James when he was like 14 was on the front cover of what was it like? What's the ESPN magazine? Sports Illustrated.
No,
Right?
Sports Illustrated, its own
Yeah,
magazine.
yeah. But it was some sort of sports magazine.
Okay.
And like LaMelo Ball, who's 16, he's already got his shoe deal on TV show. I think like
What?
yeah, LaMelo Ball signed his own shoe deal, Big Baller Brand, and then the Ball family has a show on Facebook where they just hang out at home in LA and just go through their lives, and they're gonna make $1 billion. Side note, they're gonna make $1 billion.
Okay, but circling back to soccer here, or not even circling back to soccer, but getting back to your point. I mean, those kids and the system in the U.S. is kind of geared towards that, right? With basketball specifically, where players as young as, you know, middle school, you're seeing highlight videos of these kids and they're getting coverage and all of that. Whereas soccer's never really had that before. And when you get players that come through, I mean, we've never had a player like Christian, like you're saying, but the media attention that comes along with that can destroy players. You see that happen in England all the time with youth players getting too much attention and just crumpling under the expectations and the pressure and the weight. I just don't want that to happen to Christian.
That's because England's not good at soccer.
Okay. Okay, Christian, what were you saying?
I said thanks because you kept saying Christian. I appreciate it. So secondly, I think that from what we've seen over the past couple of years,
Christian, I don't know if you're there, but we lost you there.
We lost you there.
And it disrupted. So let me start that over again.
Okay.
So over the past couple of years, year or two, since Pulisic really came onto the stage, we have seen him really kind of not have that pressure on him, and I think that's why he's played so well. At Dortmund, he's not the star man. He's just kind of a role player, but he does his role very, very well. And it's really been beneficial to him that he doesn't have that pressure, that he has to be the go-to man at every moment. America, he is for the U.S. national team, and that's something that you really have to grow into. You can't just walk into that at 18 years old. And there's so much pressure on him to be the star, especially with the World Cup coming up in a couple of months. Very nervous. Our team does not look good, and we're looking to him to be, hey, can you be the difference maker to maybe get us to the quarterfinals? He's not ready for that, in my opinion, and I hope he comes into that, and within 4 years, he's going to be a really, really big player. But right now, at 18 years old, we cannot put that pressure on him.
I don't know. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, yeah, counterpart to that, like the expectation of him, like what we think he's gonna be, like I saw he's had a hand in like 11 of the 14 goals the United States has scored in this calendar year, or something like that. So like it's not the expectation. He is our best player. Like he is our attack. So I think putting that pressure on him, it's because like he is our guy. He is somebody we have to look forward like to make it to the quarterfinals. He actually is that person.
I agree, Matt, but I don't think we need to add that additional pressure. So I think you're spot on. I think he is our best player, and I think if we make it to the quarterfinals, it will be likely because of him and because of his play. But I don't know if it's helpful to add on an ISO camera and to give him even more attention, have more media requests, you know, give more focus on him. You know, does he get distracted at that point, you know?
I think he needs his own TV show stat.
Okay.
I think that we need to discuss something else involving this game.
Okay. Yeah. So go ahead.
Watching Honduras, I missed the Costa Rica game, like I said. Why on earth is Jeff Cameron not starting at center back? Can somebody please explain it to me? Because he's clearly our best center back.
Yeah, I don't know. So I didn't see the Honduras game because I was driving to the airport, but I don't know what the logic was. I don't know if, I mean, it's a lot of travel. He flew from England to New York and then from New York down to Honduras. I don't know if the travel and he was fatigued. I don't know what the logic was, but he's definitely the number one most talented center back in the U.S. pool right now.
Yeah, him and Brooks. I know Brooks was injured. Obviously, are our two center backs. But Omar Gonzalez should not see the field. I do not understand why Bruce likes him. I understand they were together in L.A., but he is not good enough for the United States national team. And he cost us a goal again. I don't understand what he's doing.
Yeah, I saw the highlights. But, I mean, in fairness, Cameron cost us a goal in the Costa Rica game.
I missed that, so I didn't see that.
Yeah, in the Costa Rica game, it was even worse. Like, Cameron had the ball and was dribbling and just passed it 20 yards directly to a Costa Rican player who just settled it and passed it right back through where Cameron just played the ball and the guy was in on a breakaway. So Cameron did not play well in the Costa Rica game, so I don't know if that played a role in it. Matt, what were your thoughts on either the World Cup qualifiers? Did you see either of them?
I watched, I think I watched half of Costa Rica, or maybe like the last, no, it was the last half hour. There we go. And I watched some part of the Costa Rica game, and I watched none of the Honduras game. I had prior commitment. But, it wasn't on TV. That's what the issue was.
It was on BN Sport.
Yeah, we don't have BN up here. But, so in the Costa Rica game, I saw Pulisic play a ball into Josie Altidore. I think he was, like, tackled. Or I never saw the replay of that. So whenever that happened in the game, that was the part I was watching.
That was the first, 20 minutes.
Okay, yeah, then I watched the first 30 minutes of that game. All right. So, like Pulisic played a perfect ball into Josie, and that would have been another assist, and we wouldn't be talking about Pulisic playing bad because he had that one assist. So I think it's kind of hard to judge him off of 2 games when he could. I mean, like something like that could have completely changed your outlook on it.
No, absolutely. And so, and I didn't make this clear, but so transitioning off of Pulisic and just talking generally about the World Cup qualifiers and the U.S. men's national team, well, the point you're bringing up is spot on. If that either is called a penalty or if Josie finishes that chance and doesn't go down easy, a couple people view it different ways, but in my personal opinion, I think Josie could have done more to stay on his feet and try to finish that. But I think he was fouled. That's 1-0 U.S. and the game completely changes, right? Rather than Costa Rica taking the lead and then them just getting into more of a shell and more of a bunker. So I don't think the U.S. played too poorly in the Costa Rica game. I think the center backs played pretty poorly, and that's what led them to losing. But the U.S. had their chances, and then the Honduras game, I don't know. I didn't see much of it. I saw a couple of highlights, specifically of Omar and Guzan, and they didn't look good. They were just blasting the ball out of the back, and I saw Omar just giving up that. I don't know what he was doing on that play where Honduras scored. I don't know why he didn't stick his foot out twice. He could have stuck his foot out twice, and he didn't. And I'm very down on Omar. I always kind of have been. I don't think he's up to the quality, but that was rough to see. Christian, any other thoughts?
I think on that goal also, it's not his fault, but it looked like Beasler was coming back and then just didn't slide to try and block the ball. He kind of just pulls up and stops. I don't know why, because I think he could have got to that and blocked it.
It's a tough. He doesn't know. I don't know. I mean, he's out of position, so he's trying to play the angles. He may be cutting off a pass. I don't know. I mean, yeah, he should have. The most dangerous guy is the one with the ball, so you always take away that first. But I don't know if that was going through his head.
Especially as a center back.
Say again?
As a center back, you always need to take away the shot first.
Yeah. To a certain extent. I mean, you have to assess the situation, and so that's not always the case. You don't always take away the shot first.
But I think he could have done more.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Matt, anything else about either of the qualifiers non-Pulisic related?
Bad results.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still, I mean, at the end of the day, we should win our next 2 games, home against Panama, away at Trinidad and Tobago. And if we do that, then the U.S. should qualify for the World Cup in third automatically. Lose or draw either of those, and we're really going to be sweating it out. And I don't know. I'm definitely nervous. I mean, CONCACAF qualifying always goes a little bit wacky. The last cycle was really unique in that the U.S. really didn't have any stumbles, but it's always kind of been tough. And I'm hopeful the U.S. pulls through it, but it's definitely not a certainty here.
How about CONMEBOL qualifying? That is really something interesting to watch. From 2nd down to 8th, they all could still go through. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts too. Brazil's way out in front there, but yeah, everyone else still in it. So World Cup qualifying across the federation should be fun to follow the rest of this time. Guys, anything else to add on this topic or any other topics, Christian?
Welcome back to the pool, Spain. Seems back at their finest, and it's a joy to watch when they're playing at their best because I really like their style of play.
Did you say welcome back to the pool?
Yeah, welcome back to the pool.
Is that a saying that people say?
Yeah, Champions Pool.
Okay. Matt, anything else you want to add?
No.
All right. Christian, you want to recap our trivia question and we will give our answers?
Yeah, sure. Which team has Manchester United been drawn with the most since 2006?
Okay. I'm going to say Sporting Lisbon, just throwing it out there. Matt, do you want to give your guess?
So in the list I sent, there was like 3 or 4 teams that I saw a lot. It was like CSKA, Feyenoord, Benfica, and somebody else. I think I saw a lot, but I think Benfica I saw in like 3 of them. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well, I would like to first say that Feyenoord is not on this list once.
Oh, that was Europa League, right? They played them in Europa League last
year. Yeah. But, okay, so there's a trick question. There's 2. So I was kind of giving you an option here. Matt got both of them.
CSKA and Benfica?
CSKA, they met 3 times over the last 11, or I guess, what is it, 9 Champions Leagues? 10. Sorry. Yeah, last 10 times they've been in.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Got the number right, too.
Yeah. Great job, Matt. That's fantastic for you, considering you sent him the list. But, yeah, that's still very good of you for remembering.
College, right?
Yeah, college. All right. So, listeners, thank you. As a motorcycle goes by, thank you for being here. If you want to check out any of the stories or topics we discussed, we will put links into the podcast show notes, as well as tweet them out from our Twitter handle, which is @BTSoccerPod. If you want to get in contact with us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. Everything was brought to you by Fan Futsal, Simplified Fantasy Soccer. Check that out. And Matt, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us again. Christian, thank you for being here. And listeners, we will talk to you next week. Thanks. Coolio. All right, people watching on YouTube. Christian, I don't know what is happening outside your apartment, but sounds like there's police and cars and sirens.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You're right.
Okay. Thank you for having the window open so that we could all hear that.
I think my place was the motorcycle because I'm right next to Atherton. My window is right next to Atherton.
All right, great.
I think I was the motorcycle, but those weren't my cop sirens.
Okay. All right, cool. Listeners or watchers on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We will be back again next week. So see ya. Bye-bye.